For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile. And the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time. There's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Bedford, welcome to the Phil Paleologus Show. With updates and breaking news from the WBSM newsroom and on the WBSM app. And your calls and conversation at 508-996-0500. Here he is, New Bedford's #1 talk show host, WBSM's Morning Mayor, Phil Paleologus.
Thank you, Kate. I always thank you. Folks, I don't thank you enough. Welcome. Great to have you at 8 minutes after 7 o'clock, so let's get a rush on it, huh? I have a couple of news stories that you may find interesting. If you purchased your tickets for Aerosmith, well, the show has been canceled for the remaining 2022 because Steven Tyler's health is on the borderline. So his doctor said that you're not going to play anywhere. And so we'll tell you when those will be rescheduled, but I'm sure you'll hear from the ticket people too, right? And it's freedom for WNBA star Brittany Griner. She was, how long? Not quite a year imprisoned, right? And I agree 100% with John, who writes, Brittany Griner was released instead of Paul Whelan because Griner's offense, drug possession, was not a big deal compared to Whelan's alleged offense of espionage. Whelan's offense is on the scale of foreign affairs and international relations, which are much, much more valuable bargaining tools for Russia. And he goes on to say that re-releasing Griner made Russia look good, and it allowed them to get their guy in exchange. So, John, I agree. The United States, he says, had fewer bargaining chips than Russia. And, by the way, Griner's real crime, oh, this is classic, was being an idiot for traveling with drugs.
Take the Morning Mayor wherever you go. Download the WBSM app.
How true, huh? How true. Well, thank God she is home, and we're praying for all of those folks who are victims of injustice, you know. It's wonderful to have you with us. We have, of course, it's Friday, John LeBoot, who's going to be joining us. If you want to see how important voting is, the recount of an election has flipped the election to the Democrat by one vote. I mean, we always hear these stories, but it's true. All right? It is true. And we have more details on that at the State House News Service, but that's what it says. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you believe that trading a guy who was called a death dealer, one of the heaviest bargaining chips that we had for a person who hates our country? I'm not sure I understand the logic behind that, Phil. When you stop and think about this guy was a spy. Who's he spying for? The United States of America. That was the most woke deal of the century, and I don't see the logic behind that at all. I see that as a woke move by. What would I wouldn't expect anything else from this administration to leave a patriot in prison and to bring home an idiot, like you called her, because she is an idiot, to bring her home when we had the bigger bargaining chip in this deal. How do you call that good, Phil?
No, I'm not. That's what that's not my opinion. I was just reading what was sent to me by John. Yeah. So I'm John with you on board.
John the Boutelier?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess I wouldn't expect anything different. Oh. The only problem I have with John the Boutelier is that he calls himself a Republican. And there's not a person alive who believes he's a Republican except for him, because he's not a Republican. And he could just call himself what he is, you know. And I'd have more respect for him if he did that. And I would embrace that in a sense, because we can bring things to the table and definitely discuss them. But for him to call himself a Republican, he's not even a rhino. He's not even. I don't see it at all. I haven't heard him say one thing that would lead me to believe that he's a Republican or slightly even moderately conservative. You know, not once on his show, on your show.
I think he would have been a Tory if it was back then. Well, you have another good point there. You know, you've been reading up, huh?
Well, I try to keep informed, and the best way to do it is listening to you, Phil. All right.
So wait. What are we having for breakfast?
I think I got COVID. I think that's enough.
Well, get well.
I'm working on it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take the Morning Mayor wherever you go. Download the WBSM app. Barry Richard.
I want you to imagine this beautiful building in New Bedford, the Armory, and inside it is now beautiful, all right? My question is, how do you sell this idea now so that people can go there and can be part of it? I have an opinion on that. And I also was wondering whether Paul Chason, who does interior design, would like to go by there, and how would Paul imagine the inside of this historic building, New Bedford's $10 Pleasant Street fixer-upper. Nice photo, nice story in today's Standard Times. And Dartmouth schools talk about the next steps after Gifford, superintendent for the last 8 years, set to retire in March. Time does go by quickly, doesn't it? Yes, it do.
Take the Morning Mayor wherever you go. Download the WBSM app.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Take the Morning Mayor wherever you go. Download the WBSM app.
Great to have you with us. Good morning. How do you take your coffee? All right. You're driving along, so just pay attention now. It doesn't take much. And are you buckled up? And as long as I'm talking about seat belts, my dad was involved in a car accident and died as a result of that head-on collision. And it's as if the state trooper is with me every day. He said if he was wearing a seatbelt, he could have survived this. So we all have our reasons, for whether or not we want to buckle up or not. But that's where I come from on that one. Tomorrow's going to be a nice day for a party downtown, huh? We're going to have all the downtown incorporated shops all dressed up for you, ready for the Christmas and Hanukkah and all the holiday seasons. And then the tree lighting, the parade, tree lighting. It's going to be great. And, of course, Armand is going to MC. Of course. When you see him, tell him happy birthday, all right? It was his birthday just the other day, okay? He'll like that.
WBSM isn't just a broadcast. It's also a podcast. Get all of our podcasts at WBSM.com, the WBSM app, or just search WBSM on your favorite podcast provider.
Did you hear about Aerosmith? They have canceled the remaining 2022 shows, so Steven Tyler's health is a concern. All right? So let's see, what do we have here? No, I don't want to do that one. Good morning. Yeah, this one looks good. We have, of course, this Saturday evening, another great show by the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra. It's Holiday Pops, all of your favorites. And it's 3:30 and 7 o'clock, all right? That's 3:30 to 7 o'clock. Those are the two concert dates. And it's brought to you by Gotta Have It Incorporated and Burke and Lamb. And the reason I bring this up is because we need, sponsors like that. We need all of us to, if you have a business especially, need to put everything on a scale and budget out everything, because I have a feeling that it's going to come back to us that we are going to be responsible for being compassionate in the future. I mean it. So we have those stories to look at. Rejoice as conductor Keith Lockhart and the Boston Pops kick everything up. We'll have more on that. And there's a special concert there for Fiscal Alliance Foundation, and it's a night at the Pops on December the 15th. If you'd like to be there, just get a hold of Fiscal Alliance Foundation. If it sounds familiar, well, those were the good folks who went around and collected signatures, and they're a watchdog. The word everyone uses is the conservative organization. No. They're looking out to be, to watch over our money.
If I could be you.
And you could be me.
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
My daughter is Marina. Marina has a rare form of children's eye cancer, retinoblastoma. Her doctor sent us to a specialist, and then the specialist sent us to St. Jude. Within the first couple weeks of us getting here, I was just so scared. I think the reality just hit me, and it kind of hit me all at once. I had started to cry, and her doctor came in, Dr. Brennan came in, and just didn't even say anything, sat down beside me, and hugged me and held me while I was literally sobbing. And she just said, "It's going to be okay. We don't have to worry anymore. The treatment worked, and we've saved her eye." This place has been such a blessing for us. There's no way we could have paid for treatment back home if we had to. We can come here and we can just solely focus on taking care of her and helping her heal.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Disagree with our talk show?
What do you say we get into the newsroom and find out the details?
Absolutely. Brittany Griner is back in the United States. Michael Kastner reports.
A plane carrying Griner landed this morning in San Antonio, Texas. The WNBA star is reuniting with her wife and parents after being jailed in Russia for nearly 10 months. She was exchanged for Viktor Bout, a Russian arms dealer. Earlier this fall, a Russian court upheld Griner's drug conviction and 9-year prison sentence. I'm Michael Kastner.
There is concern among some Pentagon officials that the Russian arms dealer exchanged for WNBA star Brittany Griner will return to illegally trafficking weapons. Arms dealer Viktor Bout was serving a 25-year prison sentence in the U.S. on charges of conspiring to kill Americans, delivery of anti-aircraft missiles, and aiding a terrorist organization. Pentagon officials worry that Bout could go back to fueling conflicts around the world, particularly in Africa. Lebanon has been without a president for over a month, and its legislators since late September have been unable to vote for a new president. The impasse has held up a range of initiatives for the cash-strapped country, from putting into place structural reforms for an International Monetary Fund program to allowing the country's state-owned television channel to broadcast the World Cup. More political twists and turns as Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema says she's leaving the Democratic Party. Rory O'Neill reports.
Senator Sinema says she will drop her Democratic ties and become an independent. In an exclusive interview with CNN's Jake Tapper, Sinema was not ready to commit to caucusing with the Democrats like the Senate's two other independents, Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Angus King of Maine. Sinema says she's joining a growing number of fellow Arizonans who reject party politics and declare their independence. I'm Rory O'Neill.
A sentence in the case of the former Minneapolis police officer who held down George Floyd will be handed in Minnesota State Court today. J. Alexander Kueng is serving a 3-year federal sentence for violating Floyd's civil rights when he held the unarmed black man while another officer knelt on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. Kueng will be sentenced to 42 months on a state charge of aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. The House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection is considering criminal referrals for Donald Trump. Mark Mayfield reports.
On Thursday, it was reported that the committee may pass on criminal referrals to the Justice Department for not only the former president, but at least 4 other individuals, too. It's not clear yet who they're going to refer for prosecution or on what possible charges. Chairman Benny Thompson told reporters the committee will release its list of criminal referrals and its final report on December the 21st. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The U.S. may not be facing a recession after all. That's according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who spoke at an event in Texas on Thursday and said the U.S. is, quote, on the right track in terms of lowering inflation, and that a recession, quote, is not inevitable. She also claimed that supply chain bottlenecks were starting to ease and that rent prices had peaked and were starting to come down. A crucial highway on Hawaii's Big Island is no longer in danger of a major change in lava flow from the world's biggest volcano. Mauna Loa was still erupting Thursday morning, but the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory said lava flow has subsided over the past couple of days. A geologist at the observatory said the lava feeding the flow was cut off, and the lava supply had dropped, quote, significantly yesterday. A Backstreet Boys holiday special will no longer air after one of the band members was accused of rape. The Hollywood Reporter says, quote, a very Backstreet holiday was scheduled to run December 14th on ABC, but is now being replaced by comedy reruns. The cancellation follows a lawsuit that was filed Thursday accusing Nick Carter of raping a 17-year-old fan on a tour bus in 2001. In sports, the Bruins take on the Coyotes tonight in Tempe, and the Celtics are also out west as they play the Warriors in San Francisco tomorrow night. Now for a look at your local forecast from ABC 6.
High temperatures today near 44 degrees under 99% sunshine, but that breeze all day will make it feel like it's 10 degrees cooler. Tonight, a clear start and a cloudy finish, low near 30, and Saturday will feature a lot of clouds but a dry day, temperature near 35. Sunday, a few rain showers move in, and those change over to snow showers in the evening. From the ABC 6 Weather Center, I'm Storm Tracker meteorologist Nick Morganelli on New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM.
At the moment, it is 33 degrees and clear. I'm Kate Robinson for WBSM News. Stay up to date with New Bedford's News Talk station, 1420 WBSM, and get breaking news alerts and podcasts with the WBSM app.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate Robinson. And in just a few minutes, LeBoot is going to join us. But before we go there, I wanted to remind you that the best gift of all, as one of our earlier callers said beautifully, is good health. All right? Now, along with aging comes certain things. I mean, it's inevitable. And it's also something that the folks at Coastal Dermatology, now AP Derm Coastal Dermatology, have been aware of. Dr. Deborah Chappelle, she is so awesome. She has been practicing for 20 years, and as a result, she's expanded her business. This is awesome. And she has a terrific staff, Leslie Ware, who will help you out with whatever you need, whether it's doing cosmetic procedures, like Botox or Juvederm, Kybella, and medical-grade peels, or anything else. So pick up the phone. Here's the best part. You are going to get an appointment, all righty? Call 508-388-1051. I can tell you that I get whole body searches, It sounds weird, I know, but a full body search, and no, it's not like that. Oh, dear God. Anyway, she was telling me that, twice a year I go back because I had a cancerous growth. All right? So, good health, long time to live, Happy New Year too. And we will always have great respect for AP Derm, Coastal Dermatology, and Dr. Chappelle. Good morning. It's 7:37.
The WBSM app is
with a former congressman. Yep. And author of a couple of books, and you're still dealing with the POW, right?
I am. The heart of my life is getting to the bottom of that issue. We left hundreds of men behind in Vietnam, alive, held in captivity against their will. And until we solve that issue, I'll never be satisfied.
So I wanted to mention that because this week I was talking about they found the remains of an American soldier, 80 years later. So,
that's right, in the Philippines. We discussed it briefly on Wednesday.
Yep.
And for that family, it's great to finally know for sure what happened and maybe get the remains back and have a proper funeral, which usually the Pentagon will put that funeral on. This guy might go to Arlington.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's dead soldiers, and that's very important. But it's not my issue. My issue is the living ones abandoned by our government in 1973. And we knew men were alive there, and we basically wrote them off. And that's un-American. It's terrible, and it's got to get fixed.
Yep. How do you fix that?
Well, if the ones that are still alive, you bring them home. That's how you fix it. And then holy hell will come down once that's clear that we did leave guys behind, and some of them are still alive. I think there's 300 to 400 still alive out of the 600 that we left there.
Amazing.
So we get those home, we get those men home, and then, like I say, holy hell's going to come out about all the others that died while they were there with our government, Phil, lying about it, A, to the families, B, to the American people, to the media, to the Congress. I mean, I was a congressman. They lied right to me every time I talked to them about this thing.
Man, oh man, I'll tell you. This is I love talking with you because you have little snippets of history that you're part of, you know?
Well, you know,
go ahead.
On the history front of it, the guy that, you know, the president who left him there was Nixon. And yet I'm not sure how much Nixon knew about it because Nixon was going down the drain in Watergate. It's January 73. Watergate has already been up and running. We're about to get to those famous Sam Ervin televised hearings in the spring and summer of 73.
Yep.
And Nixon has agreed to the Paris Peace Agreement that covers this issue. And he's written a secret letter on February 1st, 1973, to the head of North Vietnam, the Premier Pham Van Dong. And in the letter, he promises to pay, Nixon, says the United States will pay Vietnam, North Vietnam, $4.75 billion over a 5-year period to rebuild Vietnam in return for Vietnam gathering up all the POWs and giving them back. Well, guess what? And by the way, that $4.75 billion back then, today is $25 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much
this is
the value
interesting.
of money is going up.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't know it because it's been very quiet about this issue. And he promises the money, and then the first group of prisoners start coming home with McCain and Admiral Stockdale and all these famous guys come home.
Yeah.
And they correctly start telling their stories about how badly they were treated and tortured and had their shoulders ripped out of the socket in interrogation and cigarette burns all over their bodies by their interrogators. I mean, really bad stuff. And it was a big deal in 73, in February, March, April, as these stories are coming out and the men are back with their families and they're talking about it. Well, guess what? Congress says we're not paying the money.
Why?
We're not going to give money. We're not going to give money to a country that treated our heroes this way. Nixon dispatches his Secretary of State, William Rogers, up to the Capitol to tell all these senators and congressmen, please shut up, because the Vietnamese are listening to you. They're watching you. They're hearing you. And if they don't think we're going to pay the money, they're not going to give us the rest of the prisoners back. Well, to this day, we've never paid a penny of it. We never got the other prisoners back.
Wow. Oh, my gosh.
To talk about an expression I've come to hate, which is falling through the cracks. I just hate it because what if you're the guy that falls through the cracks? You know, it's a big deal. And
of course it is.
These 600 men that they held back for leverage to get the $4.75 billion, they fell through the cracks. The U.S. government just wrote them off. Nixon, meanwhile, is distracted by Watergate. What he should have done is not what he did. What he should have done is he should have gone on national TV to the American public and said, look, the Vietnamese kept these men back, and we've got to get them back. They're holding them still. And if they don't give them back to us, we're going to go back over there and bomb the hell out of the place. That's what he should have done. Tell the people the truth. They can handle it. But he didn't. Instead, the Pentagon said, well, we've gotten all the prisoners back. Issue's over. And a full-scale cover-up went into place, Phil, that is still there now.
Wow.
Which is rather than admit what we did, we made a cover-up. Now, a side issue that's very interesting. The letter, February 1st, 1973. Richard Nixon, President of the United States, to Pham Van Dong. Okay, that letter was immediately classified, top secret. Nobody saw it. Okay, Nixon finally leaves office. We get to 1976. Of course, Ford is the president. Kissinger and Scowcroft, same people are still there that were there during Nixon. They've stayed on. And Brent Scowcroft's the national security advisor, and he's brought up to the Hill one day in 76 by a congressional committee, and I think the chairman was a guy named Henry Gonzalez from Texas. These are Democrats. And they say to him under oath, they ask him under oath in a hearing, we've heard there was a letter from Nixon to Pham Van Dong promising money. Now, says Scowcroft, there's no such letter. Okay, fine. Well, what are you going to do? So then this committee, led by Chairman Gonzalez, goes to Southeast Asia because there are all these reports, 2.5 years after the war, that there's still POWs over there. So they go over there, and when they're in Hanoi, the capital of North Vietnam, having a meeting with the high-level government people of the North Vietnamese government, what do you think the North Vietnamese produce in the meeting?
A letter?
The letter from the letter from Nixon that Scowcroft said doesn't exist. So when the committee comes back to Washington, they reopen their hearing, re-summon Scowcroft up to the Hill, and they said, well, when we met you 2 months ago, you said there was no letter. But since then, we've seen the letter. We saw it in North Vietnam. You know what Scowcroft says?
What?
Oh, that letter.
Oh, well, you should have been much more clear about it, sir.
He just lied through his teeth, and okay, fine, they'll lie. They're politicians, blah blah. But there's a victim here of these laws, 600 victims, and America's the victim.
Yep.
So
very interesting. I was thinking as you presented that segment as if the water were nice and smooth, perfect to skip rocks. I mean, you were perfect.
Yeah.
You have a memory for names and dates and the details that are very important, John. So, have you ever?
Well, I thank you. It's not through anything I've done. It's just I've always had a good memory, and I care so much about this. I'm sure I forget many other things, but this stuff is burned into my soul, Phil, because let's face it, any one of us could be these men. And that's why I hate that expression, falling through the cracks, because it sounds so innocuous. Oh, yeah, some things fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
But human beings fall through cracks.
Of course. Absolutely.
And it's not right. And in this country, we're supposed to we care about every person. And I think generally we do. But there are certain elements who don't. But, I mean, the majority of people recognize how important the life of our fellow citizens are, and especially those who are fighting for us in our military. Now, the idea that we leave them behind and lie about it and cover it up, that's unconscionable. And I knew it when I got into Congress and I first learned about this thing by accident. I'm the youngest member of the House. I'm 27. Through a miracle, which we'll talk about another time, I get put on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I go to a hearing, and I'm a diligent young man, so the hearing is scheduled for 10 a.m. I'm there at 9:45, even though I learned the hearings don't begin till 15 minutes late or something. But I was there early, sitting in my seat in the front row of the raised dais up there. And there are two senior Republican congressmen in the row behind me talking. And I overhear it. And one of them says, wow, that was some briefing we had about the POWs in Laos last night. And the other guy says, yeah, I was shocked. So I think about this, and I think, what is this all about? So I stand up, turn around. I have to introduce myself to these men. They don't know me. I don't know them.
Right.
And one of them was a guy named Tennyson Geyer from Ohio. And I said, excuse me, but I couldn't help but hearing what you guys are talking about this briefing in the Pentagon. Can I have that briefing? And Tennyson Geyer had been in Congress for like 40 years or something. He looks at me and he laughs at me. He says, of course you can, son. You're a congressman. You can have anything you want. Just call over there and they'll give it to you. So I get another freshman who became a dear friend of mine. We call up, boom. A couple days later, we're over there. We had a 2.5-hour private briefing in the Defense Intelligence Agency with We heard radio intercepts. We saw aerial photography. Oh, my God. Any of your listeners and you, anybody who heard what we heard would have walked out of that room the same way we did, which is, oh, my God, there are men there now. This is March 81. So we're now 8 years after the end of the war. 8 years. These guys are still there in a camp. They showed us the construction of the camp over the previous 6 months with pictures from each month from an airplane that we flew over it to photograph it.
So why did people not believe it?
Huh?
Why Go ahead.
Oh, they believed that the government knew men are there. That they felt it's cover, CYA. They didn't want to admit the mistake of 73 of leaving the men behind. And each time you refuse to admit the mistake, it gets worse, gets bigger, gets longer. The story is worse. And so, and I don't blame this any longer on any one person or certainly not either party, because both parties have had presidents. Nixon was a Republican and Ford, but then Carter, who said there were no prisoners left, and Reagan, who supposedly wanted to do something but didn't, and then we had Clinton and normalized relations with Vietnam. So both parties are guilty on this thing.
Yep.
And I don't personally think most of these presidents knew. I think the underlings don't tell the president what goes on.
I'm sure that happens. And I
think it goes on a lot.
Yeah, and more so nowadays between all these agencies. I have 90 seconds, but you have to answer this. You were just talking about it. What about, what is her name, Sinema? The announcement of her leaving?
Okay, here's what we got to... No, she's not. Well, she's leaving. She's becoming independent.
Yes,
and what
she's
we've
leaving
got to get clarified.
The Democratic Party.
She's re-registered as an independent. The question is, will she still caucus with the Democrats? In which case, it doesn't change the story. And we already have Bernie Sanders and Angus King.
Mm-hmm.
Both of whom are independent senators, but they both caucus with the Democrats. So if she stays caucusing with the Democrats, then it doesn't change the 51-49 balance in the Senate. So that's what we have to get clarified. And if she doesn't caucus with the Democrats, she'll take her off the committees and she'll be ruined.
Wow.
So you have to be on committees, and she said nothing's going to change. I'm keeping my committee assignments. So we're going to find out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Give Plumlee my love. How is that,
I'm looking
darling?
at her right now. She's very into the show today. I'll tell her. Uncle Phil says hello, Plum. And I'll talk to you Wednesday, Phil.
Listen, I have a lot of dogs that listen to this.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.